Doctor Who and Russell the Pompous Twit are the jokes that just keep on giving. Remember back in 2018 when we wanted to save the show from itself, then we gave up on saving it and started concentrating on exposing the reasons why things had gotten to such a point. Well, that's been over for quite some time too. Nobody really cares about this show anymore. I mean, who cares how that pile of vomit that's been baking in the sun on the sidewalk for the past week got there? You're just glad it's somebody else's problem, because dealing with it is just gonna be yucky. And Doctor Who has become Disney's problem now. It's like when your ex-wife marries the Antichrist. They'll be each other's problem now. Nobody cares about exposing or saving this garbage anymore. Now, we're just laughing at it. The entertainment industry doesn't give us much comedy anymore. Watching people, franchises, and movie studios implode under the weight of years of their own stupidity is our new comedy, and it's glorious. We all had a good laugh when Russell the Pompous Twit expressed his disappointment about the ratings for his poop dumping of specials that culminated in the reveal of Dr. Nutty and the already fired Princess Zumi. Doctor Who is my new Batwoman. So bad that the comedy writes itself. At least the Star Trek franchise gave us Picard Season 3, which allowed us one more chance to remember how awesome things once were. Doctor Who and Russell the Pompous Twit, they gave us Doctor Who being condescended to by Tiddlywinks, and then the reveal of the charismatically challenged and pantsless Dr. Nutty. The level of Russell the Pompous Twit's self-delusion is actually quite astounding. This man was somehow oblivious to the fact that this was his last chance to save the show. I mean, I knew all along how this was going to turn out, and yet people called me names, and some grifters even made 4-hour live streams about it. At least it gave Mr. Beardy Woke Pants Piss Baby Reviews some content, because nobody watches his videos unless he's crying about people that he wishes he could be. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and prepare yourself for a dump truck load of projection. Watch out, Tubby's putting on his big boy pants. Also, why do I feel that most of your followers should be on some kind of list? So yeah, somehow this show that we used to love now has a fan base composed nearly entirely of degenerates, deviants, and people that should be on lists. How did this happen, you ask? Well, as I said, little ones, the time for exposure is over. I have years of videos on that very subject. Our focus now is laughter. It's like watching a friend lop off one of his testicles, and then says he's thinking about lopping off the other one. You say, "Don't do that, man. I'm just thinking of your own good." You try to tell him why lopping off the other testicle is a terrible idea, but he just laughs at you and calls you toxic. Then you become frustrated and walk away, and he just lops off the other testicle anyway and doesn't understand why he's bleeding to death. You could say, "I told you so," and honestly, you do that for a bit under your breath. Then you say, "To hell with it," and just continue walking away to let the paramedics deal with it. At least they'll have a story to tell. So as I said, we're now just going to sit here and laugh as reality mixed with more delusion starts to settle in for our nutless wonders. Russell the Pompous Twit says the end of the BBC is undoubtedly on its way. Really, Russell? Why would that be? I mean, surely they still make the same high-quality content they always did. No, instead they're focusing on things like glorifying the story of our friend who nearly bled to death after lopping off his testicles. Doctor Who's showrunner is trying to ensure that the fantasy drama outlasts the broadcaster. Ah yes, I forgot that it's now a fantasy show and no longer a science fiction show. Kind of like the fantasy in Russell the Pompous Twit's head that his comedy of errors last fall was a work of pure unadulterated genius. Instead of science fiction stories, we're talking about getting snowmanned. Yeah, I looked that one up and good lord! That's what happens when you surround yourself with nothing but degenerates and deviants. You end up thinking that this is how everyone thinks, when in reality it's just a small fraction of the population, while the rest of the population can't stand you people. According to the head of one of BBC's most successful franchises, past tense, broadcaster's end is inevitable. And why would that be, Russell? I mean, surely the fact that they've been making programming that's less appealing to the average person than a bleeding anal cyst had nothing to do with it. Speaking on television podcasts they like to watch, not this television they don't, Doctor Who showrunner Russell the Pompous Twit explains that there's a good reason for the fantasy drama being co-produced with Disney. They're both into catering to degenerates, deviants, and narcissists while losing millions. Perfect fit! It means that its survival doesn't require the continued existence of the BBC. While Disney might actually be more degenerate than the modern BBC, so you might have a point there. And I'm sure Disney will be around forever because they just continue making such high quality content that keeps pleasing everyone. I mean, that Acolyte trailer is quite something to behold, and the humbleness of everybody involved is quite impressive. You've got to look in the long term at the end of the BBC, which is undoubtedly on its way in some shape or form. You don't say, Russell, you don't say. Maybe there's a god after all. Oh no, where will the degenerates get their next paycheck? What a pickle! You've got to look in the long term at the end of the BBC. Is Doctor Who going to die then? I know many people wish it would. No, you've got to prepare for that kind of stuff. As long as the degenerates at Disney keep stealing people's money, is that what you mean by preparing, Russell? Theft? Theft is wrong, Russell, and that makes baby Jesus cry. You should know that, Russell, being the man of virtue you are. The lack of lavish BBC budgets is another reason that Davies claims Doctor Who's future requires Disney's involvement. I mean, somebody has to pay the checkboxes overtime. Those 1990 level effects ain't gonna make themselves, particularly in a world where high-budget productions are increasingly the norm. Happens when you hire checkboxes who have no idea what they're doing, as Doctor Who needs to be up there with the big hitters, if by that you mean The Acolyte, The Marvels, She-Hulk, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and a fat dude's ass just after downing a bottle of liquid X-Lax, then yeah, you'll fit right in. If Disney collapsed tomorrow, something so many people wish for in their prayers every evening, and we all had to go back to making Doctor Who on a normal BBC budget, you mean like back when the show was awesome in the 60s, 70s, and 80s? You know what? Yeah, you're a moron. We'd all rally round, and suddenly the stories would become claustrophobic ghost stories, he says. Well, seeing as you've completely lost your ability to write something that isn't trash, I'm sure that this is what you and your diverse team of creatives would come up with. Just gotta make sure that Casper isn't white anymore. A lot of people would very much like that. If it would mean cancellation, then yeah, I'm sure people would like that. So I'm not saying you have to have this happen. Cancellation will come eventually, Russell. You can't keep stealing people's money forever. But while it's happening elsewhere, I think it's unfair that it doesn't happen to Doctor Who. Life is unfair, Russell. I mean, there are many talented people out there that will never see their creations come to life because money keeps being wasted on your portrait of narcissistic self-wankery. Christ, Russell, most people would rather watch 60 minutes of a donkey taking a shit. Davies' comments are part of an interview with podcasters Jeff Lloyd and Sarah Barron on topics including camera techniques, something the checkboxes don't understand, script writing, to which the checkboxes consists of me, and the unlikeliness of Disney creating a Doctor Who Disneyland-style experience, complete with a statue of Dr. Nutty without pants and Russell the pompous twit drooling. Given that a previous Cardiff-based experience closed due to a lack of profitability, surely it had nothing to do with the brilliance of Chibs the Idiot. Costing taxpayers £1.1 million, that Doctor Who experience lost a lot of money. Thievery. That's what these people do. Thievery. I know a guy that claims he can shove his entire fist up his ass. Can he get $1.1 million for a street performance? Davies also claims that despite the success of his Doctor Who reboot, past tense, the BBC doesn't have him contractually tied down. Nope, he's got Disney shareholders tied down. Without lube, it's kind of a rolling contract. Watch out for that rolling thievery. It's coming down the mountain and it's feeling frisky. It's very free. So is that pile of vomit on the sidewalk, but that doesn't mean I want to interact with it. Look, if I had enough tomorrow, oh Russell the pompous twit, you'll never have enough, you narcissistic jackass. I could walk out. Or get walked out if that Disney takeover ever happens. Well, I wouldn't walk out. Then they'll just call the cops and you'll be featured on one of them YouTube police arrest videos squealing like a stuck pig because I wouldn't let people down. You already did that, Russell, and baby Jesus doesn't like lies. But nothing could trap me. Not even with your level of thievery. I would never be in a situation where I had to write things. Well, what you do now isn't really writing, it's pontificating, and it's quite grating. I'm talking as though that's about to happen. That's not about to happen, despite the wishes of pretty much everyone that isn't a deviant. I love it. I think you love yourself, Russell, not much else. But oh my God, I'd never be stuck sitting somewhere going, I must do 5 years here. Never. I'm too old for that now. Well then, perhaps you should retire with all that shareholder money. You're a funny man, Russell. A very funny man. And that's it for today. Follow me on X, and until next time, suck it.